If you're listening to this, now would be a good time to put on some headphones. Since we're stuck in traffic, I might as well tell you where we're heading. I'm heading east towards Basoga Kingdom, which is an Eastern ethnic group here in Uganda. And I will be meeting with the Nakibembe Embaire group, who are a really fascinating lot. And I'm going there for an opportunity to listen and also possibly record this traditional, really ancient music. They play what we call a traditional African log xylophone. Of course, African log xylophones occur all across the continent, but I feel like the people of Busoga play it in such interesting fashion. And I don't mean to do any spoilers yet. Yeah, you'll listen to it in a bit. I'll also be having a chat with two gentlemen. I think they are chairman and another representative. And yeah, this is one of those episodes that's going to have very little talking and more of the music. Now, I actually first learned about them through a BBC feature. I think it's called Wild Roots by a lady called Lucy Duran. It's a very old piece, I think from the 1980s. And how I landed on them, I was doing a bit of research for a BBC piece that I was asked to tape here in Kampala. Yeah, and from even so many years back, that music still sounded incredibly interesting. The Jonathan Benaya podcast, as we always say, is available on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where else are we? Google Podcasts, which is now YouTube Music. And for my friends listening in the US, this episode is also available on iHeartRadio as well. I'd like to say a very big thank you to our Patreons. It's through your monthly pledges that we are able to keep this show and this creative stuff going. And of course, to thank you, our listeners as well, for always tuning in. Nuggets from this conversation will also feature on our sister show, the Africa Safari Podcast, which is basically a safari storytelling series that explores natural, wild, conservation, travel, and our people, and occasionally music, as we are today. Yeah, so the next time you see me, I might be somewhere across the Nile River in what we call Busoga Kingdom. And I will specifically be heading to Uganda, to a small village called Nakibembe, after which this particular group is named. The group is called the Nakibembe Embaire Group. The name of the village is Nakibembe, and I think Embaire translates traditionally to mean an African log xylophone in English. This conversation begins after the short break. I'm your host, Jonathan Benaya, and this is the Jonathan Benaya Podcast.
What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome to the Jonathan Benaya Podcast, a show that is wild, very wild. We are proudly Uganda's #1 conservation and tourism show, but we also benefit from a listenership from all across the African continent and the world at large. We try to put out a new episode every Sunday with discussions ranging around how to make the natural world a better place, creating awesome images, telling stories with words, wildlife films and photography, with occasional musings on sound and tech. If these topics fascinate you as much as they interest me, I promise you this podcast will have you in a spin. I do share a lot of my personal experiences, and from time to time, I'll have 1 or 2 guests on the podcast to have some very insightful discussions. So thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy your time here. Wow. I have so many questions, but I think I'll have to start where it all began. Mr. Ngobi Rashid, thank you so much for having us, first of all. And well, what a way to welcome us into this village. My first question is, where did this music and the practice of playing the embaire, the African log xylophone, begin?
Our group began playing in 1974 when we took over this practice from our forefathers. But as the Basoga people, our ancestors had been playing this type of music for over 700 years. They led before us, as you can see, from the 1974 founding group. We are only 2 founding members left, which is me and 1 other member. Some died while others lost faith and departed. It's almost 50 years that our group was founded, but we have been able to welcome new members from all the age groups. Some of our current members are 30 or 25 years old. We have even set up an academy. The academy will help us make sure this thing does not die out, so that the younger generation can carry it on in our absence. So, we are teaching them the discipline required to keep it running.
Now, Mzee, the sound from this instrument is both powerful and intricate. Yet the instrument isn't amplified by any modern equipment. And for those listening in, they might not fully comprehend how loud this instrument is. Can you maybe explain how the embaire was crafted? How many notes does it have? And maybe also what kind of materials are used to make this instrument?
The xylophones, they speak for themselves, because during the crafting there was no modern technology. Initially, this instrument had only 15 notes, but we redesigned it and added a few more notes to include a bass section. We also wanted to amplify it using a modern speaker, but we were short of ways to craft it at that time. So we resorted to digging holes in order to create a reverberant sound chamber. And this has worked very well to date. That's the history behind them. We also thought of the idea of creating a box frame to play it as an alternative. But the truth is, it all started with digging holes in the ground on top of which the wooden notes would be placed.
Interesting. Now, what role does this music play in daily life out here in Busoga? And perhaps even more broadly, in an African setting like this one, east of the source of the Nile, out here in Uganda?
The instrument and the music we play is birthed out of our culture as the Basoga people. Actually, today, as you can see, we are not even dressed as we normally would be. Traditionally, we are supposed to dress in back cloth and other traditional attire. In fact, if this instrument is played very well, you'll see everyone happy, and it will feel like even the dead have risen and joined us in jubilation. So, that is its importance. It is right in the center of our culture.
Well, I have many more questions to ask Mzee, but let me first bring in Nasa. Nasa, could you tell us a bit about the first song you played? What was the message behind it?
This song is called Nzirante. I have no cattle. In the times of our grandfathers, if one saw a girl who caught his eye, he would have to go with cows to her family and request the girl's hand in marriage. Back in the day, the dowry paid was cattle. So there would be no marriage without cattle involved.
Interesting. Well, that sounds like so many other places around Uganda, and I must say Africa as well. Cattle and bride price go hand in hand. They tend to go hand in hand all across the African continent. So that's an interesting song. I think we're ready for the next song, so please go ahead and introduce it.
The second song is Baligabane Byange, They'll Share My Property. The story is like this. Once upon a time, there was this man who was rich, filthy rich. He had lots of property in the area, but unfortunately, the gods hadn't blessed him with children. Yet his siblings, who were not as wealthy as he was, had children. So he thought to himself, when I die, these people will distribute my property amongst themselves. Sadly, it will be someone else, not my own children, to benefit from my hard work.
I really enjoyed this song. You know, it's quite fascinating how polyrhythmic this music is and how you all tend to work together to complement each other but still remain in sync. For those listening, can you paint a picture about how many people would typically play the Embaire at once or at the same time?
Normally, the xylophone is meant to be played by a minimum of 6 people.
Now that cicada is pretty loud, eh? That little insect creating that high-pitched sound. Listeners, please bear with us. I think when the music resumes, that won't be an issue. Now back to the discussion. NASA, I still wanted to know, what's the maximum number of people that can play this Embaire instrument?
That depends on how we've decided to play it. But any number starting with 6 onward is okay.
And I must repeat that I really enjoyed that. In the song you just played, I noticed some players used 2 sticks. I don't know if you'd call them mallets, while others seemed to use 1. What's the science or the reason behind this difference?
We separated the style of play into 4 divisions that are played using 2 sticks, while the other 2 sections are played using a single stick. But as I said, this depends on how we have divided this section for this performance.
I also did observe as you were playing that many of you were sweating and using quite a lot of energy. This seems to be a physically demanding task. Is playing the Embaire as strenuous as it looks?
Of course, everyone who plays the xylophone has to be strong and energetic. It's not easy. You have to show joy and love for what you are doing.
Indeed, and I could see the joy on all your faces. And now, NASA, I think we are ready for the next song. Do you mind just sharing with us what the message behind it is?
The next song is called Omwoyo Guli Kundunguda. My heart is restless. This story is like this. I had a friend of mine who got into an affair with a married woman in someone's home. In those days, you'd buy what is called the mandu, the dowry, and the lady would go to his home. But when the lady reached, his heart got restless as he wasn't good in bed. Though as the Basoga saying goes, awadi echibi avao namani, meaning that the strong stay in the face of adversity. So he sent messages to his friends who got him a traditional cure, and the 2 remained happily married.
Well, that was another fantastic song, Mzai Rashid. Now, beyond the music that you guys play, what do the members of the Nakibembe Embaire group do for a living?
Omuziki tumutaawo. Abasinga twajja twakola twalima.
Aside from playing this music, most of us are farmers. Some of us operate motorcycle taxis, while others have their own businesses. So the music does not stop anyone from doing their businesses, because people have to work to provide for themselves and their loved ones. So, for instance, whenever we have a gig to perform, we close our businesses temporarily and go and perform, and then return to resume our personal businesses. We are not unemployed. We all do different businesses.
Interesting. What's the composition like? How many members do you have, or how many members do you lead in this group as the chairman?
Nine bamemba 36 benkulembera mu kintu kino.
There are 36 members that I'm leading, but that's not a limit. I would still be happy to have even 40 more, because from those we will be able to find tomorrow's members. There are times when members fall sick or get overwhelmed with work and are unable to perform with us. Sometimes our members say they have got different problems but would still want to be part of the group. That is why we don't leave our members behind wherever we go. We take everyone and we always welcome new ones. Even if you also wanted to join us, we would gladly welcome you. You could be a member who doesn't necessarily perform the music, but one who supports the team with maybe counseling and advice.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I'd be glad to join. But I think I first need to learn how to play. But Mzai, I would also like to know, what is the age composition like?
Well, at the moment we have different age groups. There are some like me who are yet to make 60 years of age. There are also those in their 40s, some are 25, some 30, and the girls you saw singing are teenagers and are still in school. We are always supportive of this. They are able to go and study while retaining their membership in our group.
Okay, well, that's interesting. What have you gained from playing this instrument? What are some of your greatest joys or greatest achievements?
We have indeed earned from this music. Earlier on, we were not really getting any monetary benefits. We used to get little to no money when we performed. Sometimes we would get invited to functions where we would perform for free just to make the event colorful. But at the moment, our music is no longer as cheap. Those days, we used to struggle with traveling to perform at events. But nowadays, if we are to perform at an event, we travel in the morning and start performing by noon, being paid not less than 1 million Uganda shillings. Those houses you see here are as a result of playing the xylophone. So, we are very proud to now be earning from this music. We even traveled out of the country a number of times. Right now, we are supported by the Nyege Nyege management. Thanks to people like Lola, Derek, Allen, and Chris. We recently returned from a performance in Japan, but we don't exalt ourselves when we return. We always come back to our villages and fit right in. Because if we exalt ourselves, some community members might not let their children join us.
Congratulations. Where around the world have you been? Where has this music been played outside our borders? I know you mentioned Japan earlier, but where else have you played?
Okusooka twaja Germany. Twaira okusooka twaja Germany. Twaja ku Denmark.
We have performed in Germany and Denmark. We later on went to Switzerland and Holland as well.
Twaira olwo twaira bwe twairayo twaja tutambwire siningi yaluuyawo paka wabalona daawonawona.
The second time we flew out, we went to many countries, including Cristiano Ronaldo's own country, Portugal.
Belgium.
We have also performed in Belgium, Norway, Japan, and so many other countries. Including one of the smallest destinations called Swain.
Wow, that's very, very impressive. How about in Uganda? Have you played anywhere else apart from the Busoga Kingdom?
Tukube Buganda.
Yes, we have also performed in other parts of Uganda. We have played in Buganda Kingdom. There is a time we were invited to play in Mbale. We also played in Entebbe Chitala. We also performed in Wobulenzi Luwero, even in Kampala Central and many other places.
That's wonderful. What kind of events are you usually invited to play at?
Oh yes, we perform at many functions, including wedding parties and funerals. There just isn't an event at which we can't perform. We even hold concerts. Whenever we fly out of the country, we play for the whites and they always enjoy this music. Also, during all the big holidays, for example on Christmas, we usually stage somewhere and perform, and the people who come to watch us usually give us a token of thanks, and then we can also go home and enjoy the festivities with our families. So, we play at all events. Whether you want us to play at your housewarming party, children's birthdays, corporation functions and graduations, there just isn't a function that we cannot perform at.
Okay, how about royal events? For instance, here in Busoga Kingdom, do you ever get to play for the king? Have you played for the reigning Chabazinga or maybe the ones that came before him?
Yes, we got the chance to play during the reign of Chabazinga Henry Wako Mulochi, but we haven't gotten the chance to play for the current king, largely because there are some people in charge who only wish for themselves. So, unfortunately, they always strictly choose the teams that they want to perform. For instance, when the reigning Chabazinga came to Vusesa village, we wanted to play for him, but we were told that no holes are dug in his presence, so we were unable to play this traditional music for him. But yes, we have had royal performances for the late King Henry Wako Mulochi.
Well, that's very fascinating to hear, and I partly understand your frustration. But I also want to ask about the holes that you dig. This is such a large instrument, and I don't know if the picture on screen really reveals the magnitude of how big this instrument is. But Mzee, I'd like to know, how are you able to transport it for the performances that you do in other parts of Uganda, but also internationally as well? Do you always dig holes wherever you go?
We once dug a hole in some country because they really wanted to see how this instrument is truly traditionally played. But in most cases, when we travel, we use a wooden box and often leave it there.
Okay, that makes sense. I think we're ready for some more music, so let me bring in Nasa again. Nasa, you were telling me the next song is about irresponsible parenting. Do you mind telling us the story behind the song that we're about to hear?
The next song talks about women who give birth to children and don't care for them. Woe to them, because the government will now look for them. The song asks, if they didn't want to give birth to these children, why did they conceive in the first place? Some of them are leaving their children here and traveling to the Middle East, while others are dumping them in pit latrines.
ayo munoni empiya banange wuliriza mube kubye mukole bibi akazo munoni abana mugamba bye mukole bibi oleka abana kabadaga muna iwe wanoni empiya aye umolu nempiya abana tobaidukira werira nabalo munoni empiya banange kamugenderera enzaire mulifwenga ku omuzala abana bemwe banange enkobere nemuleka mumaka gavumenti yiyo erikubanonereza ku misaayi emito gavumenti yiyo banange erikubanonyanga ku misaayi emito ejanike banonereza olwembo siwulangolola wabula banange siwulangolola ayo omulanga gugunungubaga wozala bana bano bakumaka baba bano bapitanga mwana muno mugembigati mwana muno mugakatunda mwe mwana muno munazinga bukalamu asigale munange kanerengeta
Well, that was a beautiful, beautiful song. And I think while the message was specifically addressed to mothers or moms, I feel like the same carries weight for fathers too. We need to be more responsive, call it responsible parents. It's so interesting how full but also loud this instrument sounds. For those listening to this podcast in its audio form, you might think that there are some drums in there, but it's just the xylophone. It's crazy, eh? Muzai Rashid, do we know the actual man who invented this instrument?
As I told you earlier, this was started by our ancestors. So it is quite hard to tell where they started or how they invented this kind of music. We only redesigned the style of play by adding 6 more notes to the original 15 that we found to make it a total of 21 notes. As you can also see, the instrument is self-sufficient. We do not need drums to accompany it. When we added the bass notes to the xylophones, we saw that the people were very happy for it. Unfortunately, the drums around this village have lost popularity. In fact, if the xylophone is not played at your event, your party might even flop.
I can see why the party would flop. So how are you ensuring that this music does not die out with your generation? How do we conserve it?
To conserve this music, we set up an academy and we are still putting in more efforts. So, number 1, we want very much for the academy to become a school. This might not happen today or tomorrow, but we would very much like to turn the academy into a school. A music school in Nakibembe training people. We got this idea from Japan. Kodo is the main traditional music group of Japan. Kodo has distributed their traditional music all throughout Japan. We also want to try that, so that Nakibembe teaches music. We could even decide that some of our members travel to Kampala to teach the people there. We would also like to build a cultural center here in Nakibembe.
Well, those are some very wonderful plans, and I'd particularly like the idea of setting up an academy and the culture center as well. I hope you folks can achieve that, and maybe the necessary help does arrive. But I also did observe that only men were playing today. Is that always the case? Is it intentional that you do not have any women playing the Embaire? I basically just want to know, has this always traditionally been the case?
All through the years, only men have been tasked with playing the xylophones because that's how it was passed on to us by our ancestors. But we are trying to see that even the girls can learn how to play them. The only challenge is that they are still weak and can only dance to the music at the moment.
Now, Mzee, I imagine that you do listen to some other types of music, maybe passively in your free time, including perhaps some of what we call modern music, for lack of a better word. Perhaps even at the festivals that you attend and play at, I'm sure you hear quite a lot of music and from very many genres. As you craft your melodies and make this music more interesting, is there a concern that you might copy other forms of music and spoil this lovely form that you play here on the Embaire in Basoga?
We hear a lot of music whenever we attend the Nyege Nyege festival and other events.
Music olena kuba nebe tati Nakibembe mutine likuja ku stage sawe.
But what encourages us and makes us feel special is that when we are called up to perform, other artists who performed before us come back to watch us. So although our music continues to evolve, we are not interested in copying anyone. In fact, it is usually the other way around. People come and tell us our music is great, and they often wonder how we invented it.
Music on ngabo jibono omuntu akubadungu.
Our music is different. When a person plays an African bow harp, they twist the tuning pegs to change the pitch. But if any of our notes goes off key, I'll need to get something and I would chop a little bit here. And if I want to increase the pitch, I would peel off some parts here. For that reason, our music becomes very different from other types of music played at Nyege Nyege. It's different. It is not connected to the other types in any way. There is nothing that would make me want to play any other instrument. In fact, if I were to play other instruments, I would master them and how to play them in a very short while. Yet if you got someone from another part of the world to learn how to play this xylophone, even 5 months, they would not have mastered how to play them or even learned how to play 3 songs. In 5 months, they'd know how to play about 2 songs, and not with the splendor with which we do, because their hands would still not be steady. This requires those who invented it and those who have learned from them. We do not even know the original inventor of this instrument. As you can see, we added a lot of science to it to improve it from those who came before us. It is not easy to do this because there are not many trees from which you can craft such a sacred instrument. It takes about 30 years to grow such trees.
You said that perfectly. Now, finally, for now, before I ask NASA what our next song is about, Mzee Rashid, how does a local group here in the village of Nakibembe end up playing and headlining some of the world's largest festivals and stages?
Now you see, we are sure it's people who come to us like yourself that continue to market our music. For example, you may take it and play it somewhere. It may also be distributed, and eventually someone will be asking where the Nakibembe village is, where this music originated from. This shines the light on Nakibembe. I know you also didn't know about us. Yet here you are, talking to the people of Nakibembe.
Let me just bring back Nasa. Nasa, before we listen to the next song, I've seen throughout all the performances that we've so far listened and watched, people are using a lot of energy. I'd like to know, are you able to perform this music non-stop for the whole day?
Okulukuba olunako olulamba tulukuba masawa.
Yes, it would be possible to play for the whole day, but in order to do this, we would need to play the xylophone with breaks for people to catch a breath. As you can see, people were sweating. But we have many other departments. We have those who play the shakers, those who play the African tube fiddle, singers and comedians too.
Well, it's really quite the show. Please tell us what the next song is about.
The next song addresses the issue of money. It's called Nga Ozira Sente Odaga. Without money, you suffer. Because in this world, whichever age you are, you need money. Otherwise, you won't get friends. Even someone who could have loved you will only ignore you. Even when you go to talk to someone casually, they'll think you've gone to beg them for money. That's the meaning of the song, because it's looking for money that makes us wander all around, including traveling to countries abroad.
Sabo mulimo potafunamu
That song is truly, truly relatable to us all. The struggle to find Mr. Money is an ongoing battle. Now, Nasa, whenever you are traveling out of Uganda or are touring internationally as a band, does everyone come along?
Beti tuja twena. Watuwa tulikuja nge Bulaya.
When we are touring internationally, unfortunately, not everyone in the group can come along. For instance, we may only travel as 6 players depending on the availability of finances from the management. Sometimes we could even make 10 or 12 depending on how much our managers can afford. Because there are several costs to cater for, including travel, passports, visas, accommodation, feeding and welfare, so a big number is hard to manage.
Yeah, that's understandable when you talk about the costs. How can people out there support the marketing and distribution of this music that you play?
Okusooka twatandikira wano nga ku kyalo kyaife eky'obuzaaliranwa.
We started from here in our home village. Then people who travel here,
katugeze Nansoni w'okwegezaako iwe nga iwe oviire Kampala.
Sorry to use you as an example. You may travel from Kampala to Nakibembe for the very first time, then you see me, and take the news back to your friends that what you've seen in Nakibembe is special. After that, people can be inspired to move this long distance to see us play and to also invite us to play on bigger stages. It's through the internet that people get to hear about us.
Well, that's nice to hear. So what should we expect from you in the coming months or the near future? Where will you be playing? Can people know what the schedule looks like?
Thank you for that question. Every year we celebrate all different holidays from different places. For example, we are paid to perform in Namutumba on Christmas, in Buna Mayuge district on New Year's, in Imbale on Eid and Luwero district during the Easter holiday. So we always anticipate and plan for those days.
Oh, that's great. How can people stay in touch with what Nakibembe has going on? I know you guys have an Instagram account, call it a handle, but is there any other way that people can keep in touch with the music and the work that you do here in the village?
Yeah, katinga wano kuchalo kwene kwetusimuka. Abandi kuifetu ina amasimu aga internet.
Here in our village, some of us have smartphones so we can link up with those in need of our services.
Batufuna. Then inecho kubiri nti tuina ba market yabe abatutunda. Nabo abamu kubalida banyegenye.
We also have marketeers like the Nyege management.
Okututunda munsi.
Those people have done a great job in marketing us within and outside Uganda.
Well, that sounds cool, and I hope all those performances go well. But just finally, let me just try to paint a small picture here. What would life be like for you as a group, or maybe you yourself, if you didn't have this fantastic instrument or the opportunity to play it as part of your life?
In all honesty, as a team, if we were not playing this music, we would feel terrible. I'll speak for myself. With the way my body and my heart are intoxicated by this music, if I don't get to play it, I can easily fall sick.
Well, we do not want you to fall sick, and I know my listeners and myself would like to listen to some more music. So yeah, go ahead. Please introduce the final song, and thank you so much for speaking to me today.
The
next song talks about the common person and the current political environment. We no longer get help from the government. That is why the singer calls the current Uganda a hassle. So we should all strive to work hard. If you have a tomato store, work hard. If you sell chapatis, do it with all your heart. If you're cooking mandazis, remain firm. Even if you're a man washing dishes in a hotel, give it your all. That is Uganda for you. That's the meaning of the song.
That's an interesting message, and it's indeed the Uganda that we have today. Yeah, so let's hear the song, and thank you so much for having us.
Kansoke kakola simwe na mukawulire mukulumpiri pomulanga ni bwesuli wire mukola sikaba abantu bajiwulire kakusemba lero Uganda yeraira yambiriko lero Uganda yeraira yambiriko kakusemba lero Uganda yeraira yambiriko Katandika embozi abantu okweraga kaliwonze byantukako tawaine ne Uganda abantu mungemye ebintu bino byanina twasoberwa no sukali yanina twasoberwa amandazi ganina twasoberwa ndine empale donadanina twasoberwa ibine bibali metwayagalira baina batole emikono bana batamu walira banangene damungemye natola gesenta kaifa balamu kaifa basokane na mungemye kubera toyagalira bibali baganda bange omwama tutole sente twasomesa abana kwisi bafuna diguli eni babigamba President Museveni ndi kwenda mukule yambe ebintu byemukola parliament ndi kwenda yetereze ebya Uganda mulabiryo tibyakanya buli kintu kyatuuka twasoberwa buli kintu kyatuuka nasoberwa abantu ife twakaga twasoberwa abantu ife twanika twasoberwa ibonere kakusemba baba Uganda gayaira yambiriko tekubi abala mumwerire mama wange bala Uganda getuse bikulolya banange ebintu byetukola lwaniso bwakoze kunendala bala bijire bitulemye balanisa mukudi okwenda okumusesayo bana bilioti bitulemye kwenda twalimu obulo nenda mungemye kintu nagoba obwavu nenda mungemye ebintu ebyo byadema nadana twalima mwoko tukobe kundala endala eyo yadema weda twalima duma tukobe ndala ekali etulemye likulowooza bwavuga tunabukuwala twaliso bwakunera mungemye kyokka wosomesa omwana otyefune ku sente afune diguli aide yafuna diguli nera mungemye ayeka emirimu ejoni jabula noni akwe emirimu ejoni jabula kanze kakaire yakutya omusada yembona anoni emirimu ejoni janema ayenda obwenginiyo omulimo gwalema ayenda obuzimbi omulimo gwalema ayenda obwadokita omulimo gwalema nekomba yakutimbe kuwe mupi ayo omulimo ogwoni gwalema nekomba yakutimbe ku dokita wona omulimo ogwoni gwalema nekomba yakuti munange mbeko musomesa ayo omulimo ogwoni gwalema okutusa yakuti baba nsani yembona ikwankala byokwemba nenda mungemi muno mwentole sente abantu basagamba mwentole sente nsani denfuna nasomesa abaana nenda mungemi ndina omwana maali kubija twelire bene abana Uganda bana twelire bene nifa babaire banange twelire bene tatifo mobaire welire mwene irwa ebabula ababoda munabendo wikaikamu tulikulira obwapote kunendala abana Uganda